Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you to Football Fridays on the Sidelines. In the second year, this academic series featuring faculty sharing their insight and experience about Notre Dame and its place in the world. My name is Lisa Hemming, and I'm the Academic Programs Director for the Alumni Association here at Notre Dame, and I'm pleased to introduce Father Paul Kollman. Father Kollman, a Holy Cross priest, is the Executive Director of the Center for Social Concerns. A native of Cincinnati, Ohio, Father Kollman is a double-domer, receiving his BA in '84 and his Master of Divinity in 1990, and his PhD from the University of Chicago Divinity School. Along with directing the Center for Social Concerns, Father Kollman is an associate professor in the Department of Theology, is a fellow in a number of institutes at Notre Dame, including the Helen Kellogg Institute for International Studies, the Joan B. Kroc Institute for International Peace Studies, and the Nanovic Institute for European Studies. Father Kollman's research focuses on African Christianity, mission history, and world Christianity, and he has carried out research in Eastern Africa, Nigeria, and South Africa, as well as archives in Europe and the United States. He's published articles and reviews in a variety of journals in theology, religious studies, and African studies, and his current project is a book on the Catholic missionary evangelization of Eastern Africa. So Father Kollman's worked for the Center for Social Concerns since 2004, and we're pleased to have him here today with us. He's talking about building faithful discipleship at Notre Dame. The Summer Service Learning Program is a great partnership between the Center, the Alumni Association, and the Notre Dame clubs, and we're thrilled to have him here with us today. So welcome, Father Paul. And I have one other thing to add is, so Father Paul is lucky that we're actually streaming him live on the internet today. So along with this presentation being videotaped, we're going to put it up on YouTube, and he's live on the internet. So he's our first to welcome you to that. So thanks.
It makes me wonder about the prudence of the Alumni Association to put me live. You know, you should at least have a 10-second delay, Lisa.
Yeah, no, it's only 2, I think. So.
Welcome, everybody. You know, there are two kinds of places in the United States. There are places when you wake up in the morning, you know exactly how you're supposed to dress and you go outside. And then there are other places where you need to listen to the radio or read the newspaper to figure out how to dress because the weather's unpredictable. Given the fact that we're certainly in that second kind of place with lots of unpredictable weather, my question for you is, what are you doing here not enjoying the day outside? That said, I'm really grateful you're here, and I'm grateful to the Alumni Association and to Lisa for inviting me. When I was asked to direct the center about 18 months ago, having been on the faculty for about a dozen years before that, I knew I was being asked to do something that stood at the heart of what Notre Dame was about, educating the minds and hearts of our students, making sure the research that is carried on at the university really serves local communities and the church and the world, and bringing together Notre Dame's resources for the common good in all sorts of ways. So it's been a great privilege for me to be at the center the past 15 months or so with some great colleagues, some of whom are here. So that's just by way of introduction. So what is Notre Dame famous for? Sports teams. I will kind of go generic rather than specific. Some great sports teams, right? Rudy, the movie Rudy. Touchdown Jesus. This one, not this one. I don't know if you ever have heard of this Touchdown Jesus. This was in Monroe, Ohio. It was, I think, perhaps it was God's justice. In 2010, was hit by a lightning bolt and burned to the ground. But that's what they get for doing an imperfect imitation of our Touchdown Jesus. A stunning campus, which I trust that you've already enjoyed today, and I trust you'll enjoy more throughout the weekend. God willing, we should have a lovely day tomorrow for the game. And great academic programs. I mean, we have superb departments. I'm in theology. Have taught in the history department concurrently, which is also a superb department. Some of our academic programs really are world class. And when we receive PhD student applicants, they're also applying to Oxford, Harvard, the Sorbonne, the best universities in the world. So great academic departments, outstanding professional programs, business and law, master's now in global health at the X Center for Global Health, all sorts of programs that move counseling, ministry training for seminarians and lay people working for the church, distinguished scholars with international reputations, including a number who have joint appointments with other great universities in the world. And that's really an interesting thing for us. So someone who one semester teaches in London, or one semester teaches in Dublin, or one semester teaches in Europe, or one semester teaches in India or China or Japan, and one semester teaches here, which is a great way for Notre Dame to leverage its gifts in the international academic arena. And perhaps the heart and the most important thing we have is great students. And since a lot of you are alums, you were once among them, the great students, graduate and undergraduate students. These days there are about 8,000 undergrads at the university, about 3,000 grad students. I don't know how that's projected to grow in the future. Those of us who live and work here are, on the one hand, really interested in seeing Notre Dame stay intimate, but are also mindful of the fact that there's all sorts of people, maybe including your own daughters and sons, who'd like to go here. So there's a big demand for the education of the university. And these are things that the university's leaders think about a lot. So these are things Notre Dame's famous for, right? Sports teams, the movie Rudy, Touchdown Jesus, great academic programs, great campus. You may not know the Center for Social Concerns is actually very well known in the kind of academic field that the center represents. And this would be a field of scholarship that, when most of the alumni I see here were undergraduates here, would not have been an academic field at all. And that would be the academic field of engaged scholarship, or service learning, or community-based learning. This is scholarship that takes very seriously studying with, producing knowledge for communities, especially communities in need, and taking local community problems really seriously. And those local community can be South Bend, or across the United States, or across the world. Wherever that happens, community-based scholarship, community-based learning, service learning, seeks to put our students and our faculty and our research to service with those communities. Now, why is the Center for Social Concerns well known in this field? Great question. Give you some answers. First of all, our Catholic ethos and identity, and Notre Dame's very generous, long-standing, and abiding commitment to that, gives us real strengths. There are ways in which our Catholic identity creates challenges for us. If you're in the chemical engineering department, you're the chair of that department, and you want to hire the best chemical engineer, and you advertise for the position of some very intricate, arcane piece of scholarship, and 10 people apply, or 100 people apply, it's very tricky to say, let's just hire the Catholics. There are ways in which trying to hire Catholic faculty creates, in some ways, a competitive disadvantage in some academic fields for us. But we work really hard to get Catholic faculty, right? At a place like the Center for Social Concerns, our Catholic identity is a very clear strength. Let me explain to you why. Because when we do our programming, we can borrow from the longest continuous tradition on reflection on the human condition we know about in human history. We can borrow wisdom in the scriptures, Jewish and Christian. We can borrow from wisdom from the thinkers in the early church, from the Middle Ages. We can borrow from contemporary Catholic social tradition, which starting in the late 19th century has created a body of knowledge that thinks about social problems with the resources of our faith. Besides which, we can draw on all sorts of the rest of the world's wisdom. We don't shun wisdom that comes from sociology or anthropology or political science or counseling or psychology. But the Catholic ethos creates in us an abiding commitment to the real common good of communities and to the kinds of educational processes and formative experiences for our students that bring together all of these resources at once. And the fact that a large number of our students are Catholic, and that even those who are not tend to appreciate the fact that we're a Catholic university, makes our Catholic ethos and identity a real strength for us as we think about our programming, which I'll describe in a little bit. A second strength is the long generosity of benefactors. We now are housed in Geddes Hall, which is right at the base of the library. The Center for Social Concerns began in the old TV station building. It was a kind of small place that became a radio station after that. And now we have a 4-story building that is gorgeous. But that's just one glimpse of the generosity of folks supporting our efforts. And besides us, there are other units like the Institute for Church Life that are also housed there. Geddes Hall is in some ways emblematic of the generosity of thousands of benefactors that support our work and long have supported our work. My predecessors, Father Don McNeil and Father Bill Lease, worked very hard to create friendships with supporters of our work. And some of those supporters are you. And we are really grateful for that long-standing generosity. So we wouldn't be able to do nearly what we're able to do without it. The third thing is we really work hard so that our programs are academically rigorous. And because of that, the university has rewarded us by allowing us to offer credit, academic credit, for almost nearly everything we do. Let me tell you, our peer units at other great institutions like Stanford or Duke, they do not have that ease of offering academic credit for the kinds of programs we do. So academic rigor allows us to give academic credit for our stuff. So 3,000 students a year take advantage of our programming, getting academic credit. You're going to hear from 2 of them in a little bit. And we take very seriously making that rigorous with serious theological reflection, serious social analysis, serious growth in self-awareness, serious understanding of local community problems and issues. It's a really big part of what we're about. And an awe-inspiring and much envied alumni network. Other universities have lots of academic rigor, great benefactors. Some also have Catholic ethos and identity. Notre Dame is unique in having loyal alums like yourselves who support us in all sorts of ways, not just in the ways of fiscal benefaction, for which we are most grateful, but because we have partnerships with the Alumni Association in all sorts of ways that support our programming. The most obvious one would be the Summer Service Learning Program that was mentioned by Lisa when she introduced me, which brings our students, one of whom you'll hear from, about 220 of them per summer, into local alumni clubs across the country for service. There's some folks here from the Orange County Club who support 6 students every summer, and some of the others of you might well have supported students who come to your area in the summers. That's just one of many, but probably the most robust single partnership we have with the Alumni Association. We'd love to develop even more partnerships with the Alumni Association, and the International Summer Service Learning Program would be another place where we want to develop those with our international alums and all that. An ISSLP student will also be speaking. So be assured, at the center, we do not take for granted the gift that it is for us to have a great alumni network, a very active and professionalized alumni association, really supportive of our efforts. We're really grateful for that. And so, we couldn't do what we do without the support of alums. Some of our programming, and this you probably know, I just want to kind of run through it quickly. One of the things we do for about 800 or 900 students, or maybe 1,000 or 1,100 a year, is short-term immersion programs. These are usually one credit courses that last a week or 2 days or 3 days. One prominent one would be the Urban Plunge, where students go for about 72 or 48 or some kind of hours like that, 2 or 3, 4 days, into an urban setting in the United States in January. And again, that's another place we rely a lot on alumni clubs to do the hosting. And when alumni clubs are really vital and engaged, our students' experiences are all the better. Another would be Appalachia, the short-term immersion over spring and fall break. For a week at a time, students go in vans to about 20 or 30 sites in the Appalachian area, in West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, et cetera, and do service. And then there are also seminars around individual topics: sustainable energy, global health, gang violence in Chicago, urban homelessness, et cetera. So seminars allow us to be very flexible in our programming. It connects us with different kinds of units here in the university as we send students to short-term immersion. We also have courses that have community-based learning as part of the class. And there's 50 or 60 per semester. So students who do 3-credit courses with graded credit, regular courses, but part of it, whether they're learning Spanish or they're learning freshman writing or they're studying social problems like urban homelessness, part of the issue is they will do service locally as part of their learning. And we have all sorts of I would say, dynamic partnerships with units in the university as we move this forward too. And we like to help faculty with faculty grants to help them be imaginative and creative about how they engage our students as part of the learning. Finally, there's community-based research. Some of the stuff we do seeks to take community problems really seriously and help Notre Dame's academic prowess be brought to bear to deal with those problems. And we support community-based research in all sorts of ways. And we do other kinds of research too. See, it's nice outside. He's doing the right thing. Finally, some of our most prominent stuff is our summer service programming, both domestic, the SSLP, and international, the ISSLP. And those programs are pretty intense. They're well prepared. They're competitive. And they're really well run by my colleagues, one of whom is here, who runs the SSLP, Andrea Smith-Chappelle, in the front row. And the ISSLP is run by Rachel Tomas Morgan, who can't be here. She's meeting with someone right now. But those programs are really lovely experiences for the vast majority of the undergraduates who participate in them. Stuff like this, as you might imagine, is much more art than science. Students get sick. They get homesick. Things happen in their families. Sometimes there are personality clashes. So not everybody who participates in these experiences loves it at the end. But the vast majority can really claim they benefited from it, sometimes even when, and sometimes especially because it was difficult. And we are really grateful for the kinds of support we receive from benefactors and also from the Alumni Association in other ways that supports these kinds of programs. So I'd like to now turn it over to two students who have participated in these programs. Lauren Feist, who did a SSLP in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Anthony Mina, who did an international summer service learning program in Ecuador. First, Lauren. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. Hi, I'm Lauren Feist. I'm from Rapid City, South Dakota. I'm a sophomore in Welsh Family Hall. I'm a political science major with a minor in Latin American Studies. So the SSLP, Summer Service Learning Program, has been a part of my family, actually, for 4 years now. We've been a host family. And so before I even came to Notre Dame, I knew about the program. I was excited about it. Our family loved having students come. It was like an extra sibling. I'm one of 5 kids, so it was always crazy. And so, like I said, I'm from Rapid City, South Dakota. That's the Notre Dame Club of the Black Hills. And so the students that came there would work in the Boys Club. And that was just a really great experience, not only for the students, but also for our families. The Notre Dame Club in the Black Hills is really small, but because of the students, they were able to really bridge a gap into that service. And so it became not just the student who was doing the service, but the entire community really got involved. The role of the students for the program there is that they set up a end-of-the-year talent show. And so it ended up having our families all involved, helping them decorate for this talent show, helping them. I was a judge for the talent show. And I think that was a really great example before I even did my SSLP of how important the Alumni Club was for that experience. And so after coming to Notre Dame, I was able to have the awesome privilege to go to Minneapolis and no longer be in the host family. I actually got to be the student. And so I was placed at Centro. It's an organization that offers a variety of services for Latino families. My primary goal was I was working in the seniors program, and that was awesome. All of them only spoke Spanish, which was great for me. I really was forced out of my comfort zone, really had to enter into community, really be very vulnerable because my Spanish is definitely not fluent yet. And I learned so much. I really was able to learn about what issues they were facing, and what challenges they were facing. We put on some health programs for them, some food assistance programs. I was able to interpret an eye appointment because they only spoke Spanish. So that was just a really, really great learning experience. But I also want to talk a little bit about my experience with the Alumni Club of Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was really, really cool to see. Like I said, I come from a very small club, and to see the Alumni Club of Minnesota just on fire. There are so many young alumni totally involved. I felt I felt so welcomed. I cannot tell you how many people were truly interested in Centro, what I was doing there. I felt very welcomed. The same with my host families. They were all so supportive, which we can't have that experience without the support of the alumni clubs. It was really cool. I want to end on my experience with my alumni contact person, because for me, my experience with a woman named Nielce Prada-Myers really helped shape my summer. Her family is from Colombia, which really helped because she was able to talk to me about my studies, talk to me about the culture. She's extremely involved in Centro, so she was able to help really orient me. But it was funny because I came to the experience as far as having an alumni contact person thinking that she would, make sure that I was not getting lost in Minneapolis. But other than that, that was about it. And it turned out that she really opened her heart to me. And I cannot tell you how important it was and how appreciative I am to be able to have that opportunity. She really helped me reflect on my freshman year. The classes I had taken up to this point really helped me reflect on my passion. And if it weren't for that joint communal aspect, both from the alumni club as well as the community at Centro, I don't think I would have had the experience that I did. Because she was so open with me and so honest, I was able to really realize at the end of my summer that this is really what I want to do for a career. I knew I'd come in with such a passion for Latino studies and Latin American studies, loving Spanish, but I was a little unsure of what I could do. And having that support and knowing that I continue to have that support on campus has allowed me to dive right into my studies and to really pursue this as a career. So I just want to thank all of you guys for the support that you guys have given the SSLP program. It really is a phenomenal program only because of that, like I said, that communal aspect of it's not us doing the service, it's all of us together. It's person to person, so thank you.
My name's Anthony Mina. I'm a senior, double major in science pre-professional and Spanish, and a double minor in theology and humanities. So both exciting and terrifying. In a matter of 6.5 months, I will join your prestigious ranks as the alumni of Notre Dame. So the summer after my sophomore year, about 1.5 years ago, I traveled to Pedro Vicente, Maldonado, Ecuador, which is a small town about 2 to 3 hours outside of Quito. And I lived and volunteered there for 9 weeks as a part of the International Summer Service Learning Program, or ISSLP. And I could talk for days about how incredible my experience was and the impact it made on me, but I'd rather focus the majority of the talk on the alumni that I met, and in particular one specific alumnus who shaped my experience and also made it possible for me to see what I wanted to do in the future. So Dr. David Gauss is an alumnus from the class of 1984, and he received his Bachelor in Arts in accounting. And so he left after his first year, he went to serve in Ecuador for a year to try to figure out what his life goal would be. And he came back to the States and decided he wanted to pursue a career as a CPA. So I believe he spent roughly 10 years as a CPA and was very successful, but he realized one morning that he wanted something else. He wanted to expand his job and wanted to help more people on a day-to-day basis. So he called Father Ted Hesburgh, and he told Father Hesburgh that he was interested in pursuing a career in medicine, and that he would like to go to medical school and would like the support of Father Hesburgh in his endeavors. And Father Hesburgh said that, sure, I'll help you, but you have to help me too. I want to build a self-sustainable hospital in Ecuador, in rural Ecuador, and I want you to run that, which is not the easiest task. But so Dr. David Gauss accepted the offer. He went to medical school in Tulane, and then he set off for Ecuador. And he was there for a very, very long time building up this hospital. And as of now, after all his hard work, it is self-sustainable. It is growing slowly, but it is growing. And it is serving rural communities from around Ecuador, not just in Pedro Vicente Maldonado. So it's an incredible opportunity, not just for patients, but also for up-and-coming physicians in Ecuador, because he partnered with a medical school in Quito. And his goal in Quito was to bring first-year and third-year residents to Pedro Vicente to help them become immersed in rural medicine in a hope that more physicians, more intelligent younger physicians who are studying in Quito might one day serve in rural communities like Pedro Vicente. So his work down there is fantastic. and he paved the way for students like me to be able to serve there for 9 weeks. When I was down there, I did 3 vastly different things. The first thing I did was to observe physicians in his hospital, in El Hospital Pedro Vicente Maldonado. And we observed physicians giving consultations, and we also saw some surgeries and some deliveries. So it was a beautiful experience. About a mile down the road, there's a free primary care clinic that's run by the government. Because Ecuador is a third world country, they don't have many resources, so they offer many free clinics in the hopes that patients can receive some care, some acute medical care. So I worked there in the laboratory and also with the nurses. And that was also a very eye-opening experience. And then finally, we taught in a local grade school, taught English, and we also helped them create some artwork and held a community-wide art exhibition at the end of our summer. But Dr. David Gauss, he was so influential in my life for 2 reasons. First, directly and indirectly. Directly, he was there for a month while I was there. So he sat down, my 2 partners and me, and we discussed the infrastructure of Ecuadorian healthcare. And we talked about his desire to pursue global research and how he got to that point in his life. And hearing his reasonings and hearing some similar themes in his life that I also wanted to pursue in my life was extremely helpful in me trying to decipher what career path I wanted to take. And also, indirectly, he's a role model in general in the sense that later in his career, if you will, after he had already decided to become a CPA, he was able to change his whole life around solely to help the lives of others. Service here was a reason I wanted to come to Notre Dame. It was a reason that Notre Dame is one of the, in my opinion, the greatest university in America and the United States. And I can't imagine not serving people for the rest of my life. And to hear how he was able to do that when he wasn't expecting to do that directly was, it gave me confidence and also gave me hope that whatever path I take in life, one day I can serve others. And so he's just one example of many alumni who help with the ISSLP. He gives students, there's about 50 to 60 students a year who participate in the program, and each of us is given the opportunity to explore a different country, to explore a different setting, a different academic or service environment. And without y'all's help, this wouldn't be possible. So on behalf of all the Notre Dame students, whether in ISSLP, SSLP, or any other program, thank you for your support and thank you for continuing to help us pursue our dreams.
Thanks so much, Lauren and Anthony. Get a sense of how vital our alumni connections are. Just so you know, the SSLP connections are at every site. Our ISSLP connections are not as firm as they would be at the site that Anthony attended took part in Ecuador, because a Notre Dame alum founded that hospital in Pedro Vicente where you're able to go. And he's a classmate of mine, David Gauss. He's an impressive guy. And our class also supports him by way of fiscally and otherwise. We have had several groups of my fellow alums, class of '84, gone down there over the summer. All of you who were students here probably remember walking around campus, and you probably think about yourselves as having certain spots in campus that are dear to you. And maybe if you're a visitor on campus, you would also think there are places that are dear to you. Special sites which have a lot of meaning, the grotto, your dorm, where you were proposed to, whatever, or where you proposed. For me, my favorite place on campus is the cemetery of the Holy Cross community on the road between the grotto and St. Mary's College on the left side as you go towards St. Mary's. When I walk there, I see my confreres in Holy Cross who've gone before me, many of whom, increasing number of whom I've known and who have inspired me, and some of whom I've just heard about, and they're buried there, and I read their names, I think about their lives. Some of them worked here at Notre Dame, and some of them worked overseas in Bangladesh or Africa or Latin America, or in parishes across this country and the world. My second favorite place, however, is near Carroll Hall, on the edge of the lake, Carroll Hall, looking back towards campus. And it'd be this view here, which is a sort of unusual view. It's the only place I know of on campus where you can get that view is over by Carroll Hall. And there, of course, is the Basilica, the library, and the administration building, the main building. And this became a site for me when I was writing my dissertation. and I would walk around the lakes in the morning, banging my head against the dissertation, which is hard work. And I would pray, and it came to me, I would come to this place and I would pray, you know, God, I just want my life to be of service to you. And I would think about these buildings as representing some elemental forces in the world. Power, the dome, knowledge, the library, and love. Power, knowledge, and love. And I was writing a dissertation, so I'm thinking about power, and I'm a priest in the church and a member of the Congregation of Holy Cross, so I think about power and the administration of the university, and then I thought about making my life a life shaped by love. And when I came to the center about a year and a half ago, I started putting that one-time act of prayer into a context about what I think the center is about. And I think the center is about making sure, or working to make sure, that all of the power that Notre Dame wields in the world, with its generous endowment, alumni network, etc., all the knowledge Notre Dame produces in its amazing academic programs, faculty and students and alums, all that knowledge and that power are oriented towards love. And one of the things that programs like those that Anthony and Lauren and so many other students participate in is to make their education as much as possible orient towards love. The knowledge they accrue, the power they wield in the world, their hearts and minds would be shaped to be oriented towards love. And that's why the center exists. There are other units that exist for similar sorts of reasons. But I think as an academic unit, the Center for Social Concerns, with its deep partnership with the Alumni Association, is uniquely poised in forming the hearts and minds of our students so that the knowledge they produce and exist in and the power they wield is oriented towards love. I think you heard that in Lauren and Anthony's testimonies. There are 3,000 students a year who participate in our programs, and we hope the same thing happens to them the same way. That takes lots of forms at the center. We tend to think about ourselves as forming faith in a variety of ways at Notre Dame, creating religious experiences so that people behold God, forming people intellectually so they know how to believe in God, learning how to behave in the world so they act under the church's direction and the guidance of the Holy Spirit so they behave well, belonging to the church in ways that are generous. We at the center certainly would kind of be most about the behaving and the belonging. We don't think of ourselves as catechists. Religious experience isn't something we try to foster in a direct way, except by way of service. But faith in its aspects of behaving and belonging is what we're about at the Center for Social Concerns. And we really rely on partners like the Alumni Association to make that happen for our students. Just like to close with this quote from the founder of the Congregation of Holy Cross, Blessed Basil Moreau: "We shall always place education side by side with instruction. The mind will not be cultivated at the expense of the heart. While we prepare useful citizens for society, we shall likewise do our utmost to prepare citizens for heaven. We are unashamed to prepare them for both." And we're really glad to have partners like the Alumni Association as we do so. Thank you very much for coming, for giving up some time of this beautiful afternoon. We'll be glad to accept questions. Great. So, yeah, and thanks again to Anthony and Lauren. I don't know if you guys want to come up. There might be questions for you, too. Any questions? Thanks.
That's the plan.
So, Anthony was just after he's going to medical school. And
It's currently the plan I'm applying now. It's quite the process. But I'm making my way through it, and so hopefully next fall I'll be off to medical school. I'm not. I probably should. But.
Other questions about anything? Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about the academic part of the courses that maybe you can get 1 or 2 credits? I mean, there is instructions and going through textbooks and things like that? Or?
Yeah, different programs have different amounts of academic preparation. For instance, our seminars 1-credit courses would have a series of sessions that might look, for instance, if you're going to Appalachia, at social problems in the history of Appalachia, including the bishops of Appalachia's analysis of their own people's situation, kind of how to do elementary social analysis to ask critical questions about social problems when you encounter them. We seek to create a sense of reflectiveness in our students so that they think about their own theological and faith convictions in light of their experiences. The ISSLP would have the most extensive preparation. It's actually sort of a 4-credit course extended over 2 semesters, including the summer. And you do stuff on global health, global economics, theology of mission of the church, particular stuff for the places you're going, like the Latin American students got together. You would have gotten country preparation on Ecuador. The SSLP, similar kinds of things. We do some specialized training in the SSLP preparation because about 40% of our students are going to medical sites. Would you say, Andrea? Not that many? 20% are going to medical sites in the SSLP. So we might do a particular session with those who are bound for those sites to think about the U.S. medical system and some of the issues it faces as it seeks to give quality care to as many people as possible. Lots of theological reflection that Andrew would help students prepare for. I don't know, would you want to say something about some of what you...
So the assignments, just to talk a little bit about what we were doing. We had work before, just to kind of prepare us to know what we were getting ourselves into. And then we had continual readings throughout the 8 weeks. And we're keeping journals. They were all theological readings. And the cool thing about it was they were just different perspectives. And it was really like a developmental approach, so that by the time that we were done at the end of the summer, we had really attained a lot of information. We're really able to reflect on it for our final paper. Do you have?
Just like we mentioned before, there's a weekly, this semester before you go, you have a class with other ISSLP students, and you meet and talk about social justice and particulars with each country. And then while you're at the site, they give you a very thick booklet of readings that they hope you will... that they ask you to read and also journal about, in the hopes that you take more out of it than just your day-to-day work. And then you come back and you'll have roughly 4 re-immersion talks with other ISSLP students, with the directors. And for those who are abroad, I was abroad right afterwards, they'll meet with you over Skype and talk about your experience. And then once you get back, they'll also meet with you. So it's a very supportive environment, and they give you work, but it's supposed to make your experience much more comprehensive.
Some of us who are active in senior alumni work helped get the book about his life. And he was, in my understanding, and some others, leading the incredible possibilities of the lady. And his story is really the story of the Center for Social Concerns. You let them know about him at all anymore, or do you all forget about him?
Sure. I was asked about Father Louis Putz, a Holy Cross priest. I don't know when Louis would have passed away, 2000 or 90, late 90s, somewhere in then. Father Louis Putz was born in Germany, came to the United States, and entered Holy Cross probably in the 40s. Probably was ordained in the 50s, maybe early 50s. Was around here a lot, working with the Catholic family movement. And really, as you mentioned, was, I would say, someone who anticipated the teachings of the Second Vatican Council, which emphasized that the call to holiness was not something that was just the preserve of consecrated religious and priests, but the call to holiness falls equally on all the baptized. And so he really challenged the folks he came to know well, and the church in general, to value the discipleship and wisdom, shared wisdom of lay people. And he was a hero in that regard for our congregation. He was director of Moreau Seminary in some volatile years in the late 1960s and early 1970s, much loved in those days. I would say he's a bit of a remote ancestor to the center per se, but he inspired people who would be the center's own very founders. He is to be honored in our founders room. We've only had the building a couple years, and we're assembling that room. Some of that heritage we are able to share with students. Some of it we're incompletely able to share. I'd say we're better at being able to honor those who are still with us, like Father Don McNeil, other people who've served us, like Father Michael Himes, who teaches at Boston College, has produced materials we continue to use with our students. But he was teaching here in the late 80s and early 90s. So we haven't done as good a job at connecting to all aspects of our heritage. He would certainly be a good one. Louis is a wonderful man and very inspirational, you're right. So thank you for reminding us of him. But we are planning to honor him in our founders room, which is a gathering room for our staff. There'd be others we'd want to put in there too, including those who participated in SELA, Father Hesburgh, Father Don McNeil, the founder, and others. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, when Cardinal John Henry Newman was founding the National University in Ireland, about 1880 or so, he issued a challenge to those who were in the same process as he was, and he said, the purpose of a Catholic university is to save souls. How would you tie up Blessed John Henry Cardinal Newman's idea with the ISSP program?
So, I mean, it's complicated, right? You asked a question about Cardinal Newman's idea of the university. The purpose of a university is to save souls. Insofar as a Catholic university participates in the life of the church, of course that's true. My own response would be, if that's the job of a university, what about the students who never get to a university? Which in his day would have been 99%. Yeah. Well, they might have, maybe 98% of them didn't get to go to university. So the complicated thing about applying ideas when the university as a thing has changed so dramatically in 140 years is figuring out exactly what that means. As a university, the Center for Social Concerns does think of itself as part of forming minds and hearts. Great citizens for this earth and great citizens for heaven. Now, different aspects of the university participate in that more directly than others, right? The accounting department is not going to be the same as campus ministry. The Center for Social Concerns, I think, is not afraid to deal with matters of the heart. But we also are an academic unit of the university, and we take that very seriously. As a matter of fact, we think that some of the best insights people can get in their hearts come from things when their minds get insights from social experiences with those who are poorest, kind of shaped by the theological wisdom of our tradition. So my thing is, we're all about that quote. We embrace it. In the sense that I would want to adopt it for the 21st century. Yeah.
If we were interested in being a sponsor for the students of SSLP, like in Atlanta, is the best avenue to contact your geographic club, and or how do you go about doing that?
I'll let the director of the SSLP, he asked, if you live in Atlanta, for instance, how would you help sponsor an SSLP site? I visited the 2 Atlanta SSLP sites this summer, by the way.
Definitely get in touch with your local alumni club. That would be the best way to do it. Atlanta is a bit unique already, though, because the alumni club sponsors one student to work with Catholic Charities and immigration, but there was an individual alumnus who wanted to sponsor a second student and be the host family and help the student participate in the site and all. So the 2 in Atlanta are very different. But the best way, the model is set up to work through the alumni club.
Yeah. They're amazing, and we're really proud of them.
I'm curious, you seem to have a pretty good idea of where you're going. Could you give us some ideas of where you want to be in 5 to 10 years? And how does that?
Oh, okay. Well, on like the going away mass for the parents my freshman year, there was a quote, and it's like, I was like, anthropology, there's nothing you can't do with that major. And they're like, you just need to keep on saying that to your children. Like, just keep on saying there's nothing you can do with that major, so that they'll find what they want to do, and they won't have their fears of finding a job, which is, really a really real fear in this economy. And so I am political science major and Latin American studies minor, and I have to say that those fears are really real. And I'm a little worried sometimes what I'm going to do, but I think how I'm so sure that I want to continue with this passion has been definitely strengthened by the SSLP, but I was able to do a mission trip in Honduras in high school, and it really was life-changing. Being able to really see kind of like what you talked about, just that desire to have just such a depth and a purpose in your career. And so I hope to take that. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to be doing in 5 or 10 years. I hope to maybe work for a non-for-profit. I would love to work for like United Nations development programs. I think that would be really cool. But I'm not exactly, like I said, I'm not exactly sure. But I think that the university really helps students pursue their passions. And there's nothing I can't do with my major. That actually is true.
So I've gotten that question many times on applications and interviews as of late. And in 5 years, I hope to be starting residency. So that's easy. But down the road, as of now, I'm very interested in surgical oncology. And I have plenty of time to change my mind. I'm going to experience things that will probably radically change my perspective. But as of now, that's what I'm considering. And this past summer, building upon my experience with the medical system in Ecuador, I was able to work in Houston to see the American system more upfront and personal. And I worked with Dr. Kelly Hunt at MD Anderson Cancer Center. And she travels very frequently to Africa to help in addition to her practice here in the States. And so I could very much see myself trying to pursue international service as a physician, or even domestic outreach here in America to the underserved communities. A long time to go before that happens, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I think to kind of second what you said earlier, we do urban funds and we've had the SSLP for years and years and years in North Florida, that's a club. And what I have found, and I've been involved in both of those programs, is it's just wonderful for those students to really see the reality of people that are in disadvantaged places and going to different things that we send them to, because it really does broaden them. And I think that's, you can study all you want, but when you actually see it in your life and you're out there and you're part of it, I think that's a wonderful part of their education. And we've been pleased to be part of that. And I would say every student that's ever came to us is just absolutely what a representative.
Great.
We're really proud of having come. And I think it's for the Alumni Association, it also is great. I'm glad you talk about the Alumni Association and the Putz. There's a lot of really, really, really great stuff out there. The current students get to really know there is an Alumni Association.
Right.
And that they want to be part of it when they graduate like this young man is going to. So I would recommend you to keep on doing the good work.
Thank you very much, and thanks to you for your service to the Alumni Club and our students for so long. And we really are beneficiaries of your efforts.
Your students are a wonderful example of St. Ignatius of Loyola, telling New Jersey, go out and set the world on fire.
Hallelujah. We are indeed blessed by our students for sure. Clemens.
Yeah. What does Pope Francis mean for the center?
Oh, well, great question. Pope Francis, for me, the line that I love and that sticks deep to me was when he says, the church has to go out into the streets. That's what we try to do, is send our students into the streets, literally and figuratively, so that we bring the resources of their faith and their education to places where those can be put to good use for the common good. But I'd love to hear what you guys think.
I lit up when you asked that question. So I was blessed to be able to go to World Youth Day this past summer in Rio de Janeiro. And I cannot tell you, first of all, not only what Pope Francis is going to be doing for the center, but what he's going to be doing for the world. And I know that sounds maybe really cheesy, but we are so blessed to have such an amazing leader. And I just wanted to share one thing that he said to us when we were there. He said, "Vaya sin miedo para servir." It's go without fear to serve. And I think the university, especially the Center for Social Concerns, would definitely hold that true and has definitely been holding that in their programs. we have to go out. We have so much talent on this university, and we have to go out without fear to serve. So I thought he put it so succinct. It was a nice, 3-part, got to do it. So.
I second that.
Thank you very much. And thanks to the Alumni Association for the invitation to me and more to the Center for Social Concerns. And really thanks to Lauren and Anthony for joining us. Really great to have you here. And thanks to all of you for coming. Enjoy the weekend.